Now, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Stanley Clarke.
My mother was the artist type. I remember at a very young age singing around the house, singing stuff that I didn't hear in church. Just an extremely creative woman. Three of us kids, she chose me to be the one that would go take music lessons. And I started taking music lessons at a very young age. I started out in New York playing with Horace Silver, then I played with Art Blakey and a few others, and then eventually Stan Getz, and then eventually I played with Joe Henderson. The idea of playing different types of music, a lot of it for me had to do with friendship. I've never really defined myself within a genre of music. I play bass. I play the bass.
Bass solos. I've been playing bass solos for a long time. I think my initial approach to the instrument was as a bass soloist. I always tried to make the bass sound better than it is. I try to sort of because the instrument has limitations sound-wise and just physically. It's a very cumbersome instrument to play on. And I spent a lot of time figuring out what things sound good on the bass and what things don't.
When I got to high school, there were no high schools for the performing arts. My goal, I wanted to play bass in the Philadelphia Orchestra. I wanted to be one of the first African Americans in the Philadelphia Orchestra, so I was studying classical music. I'm not a monolithic man. You know, I like many different things intensely. When I was a kid, I used to listen to Jimi Hendrix as intense as I listened to John Coltrane. And I listened to the Rolling Stones just like I listened to Ornette Coleman. Strong. I love scoring.
Yes.
You know, I really, you know, when I'm doing certain types of movies that I get a chance to write for orchestral stuff, and I get a chance to conduct orchestras and all that. I mean, I feel there's a certain, you know, I feel complete as a musician. I mean, I love playing the bass, I love writing music and all that, but there's something really nice to me, and it feels really old for me to, you know, spend a night writing music down. You know, I'm really into the paper and the pen and the whole.
I am mainly an acoustic bass player. If you ask me what am I, I'm an acoustic bass player that plays electric bass. I never, you know, anybody that's close to my age will know that back in those days you didn't really study the electric bass. You know, most people were like acoustic bass players that switched to electric, or if you were a guitar player that played bass, but there wasn't a lot of literature out at that point. You know, you couldn't go to school and learn how to play electric bass. Now you can go to a university and your major can be electric bass, and you can learn things.
New Jersey, we were playing in one of these greasy joints, and the people were just going crazy. A song from my father, we're playing it. And before he ended the song, I just stood up and started playing a bass solo. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was just something, you know, a vision of the future or something.
Sure.
And people started going crazy. And Horace gave me one of those looks like, you know, if he had a gun, he would have shot me.
Take you to the woodshed, yeah.
But from that point on, he left it in.
I was watching TV, and the Rolling Stones were very young, and they came on television on the Ed Sullivan Show. I wasn't a huge Beatles fan. I liked them, but because my sister liked them so much, I didn't like them. So when the Rolling Stones came on, they were a little rougher, raggedy, you know, and I was watching the band, and everybody was having fun except the bass player. And I was wondering, why was Bill Wyman not having fun, you know? And so, I always wondered about that. And I guess, years later, I just figured that I'm not going to look like that.
If you remember back in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, the keyboard bass was coming in.
Yeah.
You know, and so I wasn't going to get down there with the keyboard bass. And a lot of songs, to be quite honest, especially in the funk area, just sounded better with a keyboard bass. And so in order to be included in that music, I had to come up with something to fit in. So I came up with the tenor bass. That's the actual reason why I played tenor bass.
Well, I'm always discovering things on the bass. The bass is just like any other instrument. All instruments have their physical limitations, but actually, if you really take the time to sit down with an instrument and go beyond the physical, so-called physical limitations of an instrument, and allow yourself to go beyond that, you find that it's much easier to push the envelope on an instrument than you think. It's easy to allow an instrument to defeat you. And so I always tell my students that you're never defined by your instrument. You should never allow your instrument to define who you are. Like, I'm a piano player or I'm a bass player. You should be you should tell that instrument what you want it to do.
I think in all music, I would say that idea of raising the young and passing the music down is probably more prevalent in jazz music, because I personally believe that has more to do with the preservation of that music, is the fact that it's passed down.
But once you actually fall in love with yourself playing music, the key is you should be the first guy to love what you're doing. That's a must. A musician that walks around and feels that he hates everything that he does. I understand that, but try really hard to embrace what you're doing. Embrace your own efforts. And believe me, your sound, it will be there. It's almost strange for me to even talk about it because you are your sound. You're it.
To be quite honest, the reason why I picked up the electric bass was when I was young was so I could play parties and hang out with girls. It was basically that simple. When me and Chick Corea met and we started playing together, we started out, our band was an acoustic band. I played acoustic bass. But then we started to get more electric, and I tried to play the acoustic basses, with that band, but it just couldn't cut through. So to be quite honest, I got into the electric bass. I didn't like it at first, I grew into it once I got the Olympic bass, which enabled me to have different tones. And I could have a tone for when I'm taking a solo, I could have a tone for when I'm playing a bass line. I grew to like the instrument more.
There's a lot of music out there that just sounds the same. There's some really fantastic things being made, and then there's some things that aren't so fantastic. And why buy it?
This is not R&B music. Like R&B music, a guy can go play with Stevie Wonder for 15 years and feel good about it, and that's great. That music has a better chance of surviving than jazz. Jazz, I'm acutely aware that at any moment it can drop off the map. And so we make sure, that was instilled into me, and I instill that into others, that it stays there. And the only way it stays there, it has to be passed down.